here in the top left-hand corner of the map for Raise Your Edge Gaming. It is the blue Protoss player, PtitDrogo.
It is the one and only Frenchman still representing Gamer's origin. It is Stephano. Yep, the Zerglings are a split second too late to prevent that Nexus from being wiped in or potentially just pick up that probe. Those are things that make Zerg players very happy when you can catch that probe, because then you know another probe has to come. Maybe you can pick that one off as well. And then all of a sudden you have delayed that Nexus successfully for like a minute. And that will obviously have pretty big implications going into the mid game. Now, I gotta say I'm a bit surprised to see double Oracle into Void Ray. I don't really understand the purpose of a Void Ray in this phase in the game.
Yeah, I guess it's just a preventive measure, perhaps, if Stephano was to go first. Oh, I'm surprised he's going after the Queen, actually, but maybe almost able to get it. Instead, he's gonna somehow also kill 4 workers. Very, very nice control from Drogo. I think the Void Ray is gonna be nice to clear the Overlords, and just in case Stephano went something like Roaches. I like that he's not committing further into it, though.
Yeah, still pretty expensive. I know Void Rays became cheaper and all, but I still think this is relatively expensive. If you just go single Oracle, I understand it, but I feel double Oracle is already very safe, as both Oracles are still alive. Drogo is always living on the edge with those Oracles, but he's damn good in finding damage with them. Now already 8 drones have gone down. I think that's a pretty good start, knowing that both Oracles are still alive.
Yeah, as well as both Adepts with Void Ray out on the map killing Overlords. I mean, this is more or less exactly what Drogo wants, right? So now we're gearing up for that timing. There is charge on the way, as well as +1 weapons. Do you imagine that Drogo is going to move out with this +1?
It's possible. I mean, the Void Ray is going to put on some work right now on this hatchery. And since all the queens are still tucked into the main base, this Void Ray could potentially get a cancel, as the Oracles have decided to dive back into the main as well. Well done. I guess that's the purpose of the Void Ray, as now 1 queen has gone down. Drogo really wants to get a 2nd queen. Doesn't get it, but he still keeps both Oracles alive, even though they've got like no HP.
Yeah, extra annoying for Stephano because he doesn't know if they're still there. If I was Drogo, I would just recall them. I'd be like, yeah, okay, you guys are not staying out there. But hey, if they regen all of the shields, they can maybe poke back up again with that Void Ray and be extra annoying.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, this is great value coming out of the Void Ray. That Queen is still very low on HP as well, but obviously it's hard to commit when you're above a Spore Crawler as well. Yeah, well done. I mean, that Void Ray has absolutely paid for itself. Getting a cancel is massive, and now indeed, if Stephano would decide to build a ridiculous amount of Roaches, then you can always use it defensively as well. So, well done by Drogo. So far, a very clean game by the Protoss.
Yeah, there's really not much to be said on the side of Stephano. I mean, he's transitioning to what he wants to transition, but he has taken more damage than he would have liked. His creep spread is not where he wants it to be. Could be a little bit better, and he's getting scouted for the most part everywhere. So I would say everything's going Drogo, as he takes a fairly aggressive early 4th as well.
Yep. I really don't think you can ask for a better start to this very important best of 3 than what Drogo is having at this point. Templars are being wiped in, Storm is on the way. What I do know, if this game somehow doesn't go Drogo's way, I am pretty terrified of what's going to happen in game 2, because we know that Drogo struggles sometimes with you know, his emotions. He can get a little fired up, and this is such a damn good start. He's playing awesome. He'll finally end up losing one of his Oracles, but not before picking off another Queen. This is still really damn good, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at units lost, Drogo has 1 unit to the 21 of Stephano, nearly 1,000 resource difference this early in the game. Things are just going perfectly for I was gonna say for the Frenchman, but for Drogo.
I mean, you wouldn't be wrong, Kat.
That is true.
Now, obviously attacking into a Zerg on creep can still be difficult, but we can see Drogo moving out. He's got Immortals, he's got an Archon in the mix, and he's got so much Storm to work with as well. I don't know how you defend if you're Stephano. Like, his units need to be in absolute perfect positions, as there's a War Prism heading towards the main base as well. Oh no, Drogo, that's a little early. It does live though, and that's the most important thing.
That is true. He can warp in aggressively at the front now instead, but the possibility to go out the back is a little bit kind of removed with the Warp Prism taking so much damage. How do you feel about Storm with charge lots? Is it a little bit scarier to storm your army, or do you feel perfectly fine about it?
It is, but I think Drogo just wants to kill this hatchery, and he's got a lot of surface area to work with. Look at these Zealots. They are completely okay with dying. Wow. He can't recall, though. He just recalled the Oracle from the back of the main base. So he is kind of committed to take these fights, and that's a lot of Hydras all of a sudden. But as long as Drogo trades here, it's going to be good for him.
Yeah, Stephano already remaking the 4th on a different location. If Stephano can clear this comfortably, he's still going to be okay. Oh my god, this is already too bad, I think, for him, as Drogo continues to plow on through. And yeah, this is looking really rough. I mean, killing the base was already kind of annoying. It opens up for Drogo to take more engagements. But for a second there, I thought, okay, if Stephano clears this, he's back.
Yep, and I actually thought he was going to, but then more Archons showed up out of nowhere. A few more Zealots showed up as well, and Drogo is just not stopping. These Hydras, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. They are going to be forced to take the fight against this Protoss army eventually. But that Warp Prism, it's so important it didn't go down, because look at how many additional Warp-ins have taken place ever since. And even though the supplies are evening up, Drogo is 14 workers ahead. He's a base ahead, and I think he can still do a little more damage.
Yeah, I really love this from Drogo. A true masterclass of PvZ. We'll see if Stephano is able to stabilize after this, but this game looks all but over, to be honest. It's going to be so very difficult to climb back out. Drogo with even 81 workers, right? So it's not like he's, you know, super committed here.
Yeah, there is one tiny problem for Drogo, and that is that he doesn't know this hatchery is up on the bottom side of the map. So he may just see this as Stephano being dead struck on 3 bases, and he's like, okay, this was just fantastic. Let's build up another army and then go for it. But we also saw him build Stargates and a fleet beacon, and all of this was great. But if you don't follow up in the next 2 minutes, well, then we're still heading into the late game, and everything we said about, you know, Stephano's late game ability is still very true.
That is indeed very true. If Stephano can somehow situate enough bases, I mean, he will have lurkers for defense, but he's gonna have to pull out resources out of somewhere to make some more spores and to get those Vipers out. There's so much that he wants right now, whereas Drogo is gonna have kind of just free reign for the carrier transition, and it's a strong transition with a 5th base on the way, faster than Stephano.
Hydras are obviously pretty expensive units, and 27 Hydras have gone down already in this game, which means, like, sure, Stephano can rebuild a couple of them, but he's either gonna have too many lurkers and then he won't have an answer for the carriers, or he's going to build too many Hydras, but then he can't deal with the ground army that still has Zealots, Archons, Immortals, and Storm available as well.
Exactly, it's gonna be so difficult. Stephano opting to get the upgrades for the spines onto the lurkers. I don't think he's aware at all of the carrier transition here, so he's just kind of hoping that, you know, lurkers will trade very well against most ground armies. So if Drogo kind of suicides onto them, that could be a way where Stephano gets back into this. And it is a very fast lurker upgrade, but honestly, if Drogo just moves out with the carriers right now, and he is, Stephano just doesn't have enough Hydras.
Yep. I love the pace that Drogo is playing at. He's not slowing the game more down than he should. So he's going to try to trade again. Running into lurk is always a bit scary upper ramp. But at the same time, there's a lot of Zealots walking towards that super exposed hatchery on the bottom side of the map. No spine crawlers, no units in position. And Drogo will once again find economic damage.
Yeah, a small squad of army will answer for Stephano. I think this should be the green light for Drogo to take on an engagement with the carriers onto the rest of the Hydras, but instead he's gonna sandwich this army and make sure to clear it. So it's kind of like the safe way to go about it. He instead is gonna get surrounded, and the storms are good. I mean, even just the carriers without storm, I'm not sure if that would be enough, because the Hydras are just not very good against the carriers. All of them survive with taking no damage yet, as well as the Immortals, and it's looking rough for PtitDrogo.
Well, I think
Stephano, rather.
Yeah, exactly. I think Drogo should just keep fighting. He's got more carriers showing up. One of them is very low on HP and may eventually fall. Nope, he even saves that one, and that means that Stephano is going to lose 4 or 5 additional Hydras. 11 Hydras against 6 carriers. That's not a fight the Zerg player wins.
Yeah, and Drogo taking a 6th base behind this. I mean, he's not slowing down on that front either. He's saying, okay, clear this, you know, somehow. I don't know how, clear this. I don't even care. So,
all right, guys, here we go. In the bottom right side, we're looking at the main base of the man who is still undefeated in this group stage, but he's trailing in this best of 3. Down 0-1, it is Stephano.
Playing an incredibly clean game 1. It is in the top left-hand side of the map. The blue Protoss player, PtitDrogo.
So, speaking of this game, we see Resonating Glaive at depths on the way. I mean, this map is small. Everdream was small, and Everdream, this build was fantastic. And Stephano sometimes a bit stubborn with his scouting. This time, though, the Overlord does get to see the Robo. And I think if he's lucky, he gets to see the Twilight as well. Oh my god, that's so close.
Yeah, sees absolutely everything. And if he has been watching Pili's YouTube, there was a recent Adept challenge trying to hit by 4 minutes and 20 seconds. And this is more or less the exact same build, right? I think it's Zest's Adept build, essentially.
Yep. I mean, Zest obviously popularized this build by using it so much at the Inter Extreme Masters Katowice. I mean, it's been 6 months ever since. The build has seen a couple of changes here and there. Some people like to give their own touch to it. Stephano didn't see the Twilight. He came incredibly close, but what he does spot is the amount of adepts. He saw the 2 probes in the gas as well in the main base. All of these things are a tell, the timing of the robo. So Stephano is clearly preparing for it. He knows what's up. He's getting the Spine Crawler, getting the Roach Warren. But just because you know what's coming doesn't mean it's easy to deal with this build.
Yeah, pretty cool by Drogo. I thought he was actually splitting the adepts, but it looks like he's just going to join all 8 of them and try to hit. He's hitting a tiny bit late, but of course in a real game it's much harder to hit at the perfect timings as things are ongoing. Let's see, there is the first few links, but these adepts are very strong with resonating glaives actually, and there's not that many queens here. I wouldn't mind for Drogo to just stay there, but hey, he's gonna go into the cracks instead. Go Stephano, Roddy. He seems to just have enough.
Yep, Stephano has a perfect amount of units to deal with this. I actually thought that the natural was going to be a weak spot for Stephano. I don't think you want to let this shade finish up. Well, he does, but that means he's going to have to pick them up immediately. And I actually don't think this was good enough. I know Drogo is up by 5-6 workers, but this is always that moment where Zerg players make units. They just want to survive. They want to make sure it doesn't spiral out of control, snowballs, and they die. Now, all of a sudden, Stephano has bought like a solid minute for himself to build drones. So I think economically, the Frenchman, well, the French Zerg is in a perfect spot.
Yeah, I think so as well. Stephano also went for the TRG type response where you have enough links to try and deal with the first few adepts. A few more are going to get picked off, unfortunately, with links, and then have roaches. But while he was trailing in drones, he didn't overmake roaches at all. He just made the 4. Now a few more, 1 more popping up. And that's just wonderful for him because he's going to kind of be freed up to drone up now.
Yep, and that little link squad actually got not just the 3 adepts on the left side, but also picked off the probe. Imagine if those links weren't there. That Nexus right now would have been halfway done. At this point, we are 6 minutes into the game, and it hasn't even started yet. It is kind of blocked by the Protoss units. Stephano's going to click on the Nexus immediately, and will he get a cancel? No, not enough links.
No, he really was hoping to get in there as quickly as possible, but yeah, I mean, with those resonating glaives, the adepts clear links so very fast. There was also a force field available, so I was looking a little bit hopeful on the side of Stephano. But all in all, I still very much like his position. He has got a good defender's position. That third is very late for Drogo. Oh, that's a lot of gateway.
It is a lot of gateways. I gotta say, I'm a bit surprised by the infestation pit. Do you think we're going to see Roach swarm host here?
I think so. I think it's a good map for it. Stephano already has the creep spread moving on forward. And it's the type of map where you can even just skip or delay the Nidus in favor of just, gaining space with those roaches and walking the swarm host across. So I like it.
I'm really impressed by Stephano's defense this game because he obviously got pylon blocked, or at least probe blocked. Warpress is going to fly over the queens. Good job there by Drogo keeping it alive because you really can't afford to lose it. And there are the first few swarmers on the way, but yeah, I gotta say, on Everdream, I almost always saw Zerg players die. If their natural got blocked and the majority of the drones were at the third, I feel like it pretty much always went wrong for them. Well, in this game, that wasn't the case at all. Absolutely beautiful defense, and at this point, I mean, it's happy building unit season for Stephano, and that army supply is about to spike, and, well, we know how it goes, cats. In a minute from now, Stephano's gonna be maxed out.
Yes, indeed. And do you think it comes down to maybe a chrono boost on that Stalker or something of the sort to deny the information in the main? I feel like the Overlord flew really deep in there, but I'm not sure if Drogo could have done much about that.
Yeah, I feel like that's always a bit random, and I'm not sure if you really control that as a Protoss player, right? I think it's more on the Zerg side, depending on when they send it in and, how willing are they to lose that Overlord early in the game or not.
All right. We do have Swarm Host out. These queens have been keeping patrol out in the outskirts of Stephano's terrain to try and deny that War Prism from coming in. He's done a fantastic job of that. And now he's crossing the map with Swarm Host. It's about to get really scary for Drogo, I think.
Stephano is playing incredibly good in this game. This is no other way to put it. He really had an answer for everything that Drogo has thrown at him and hasn't made any mistakes in the follow-up. At this point, he's got a 121 army supply. Here comes the first wave of Locusts. Drogo, I think, tried to bait the Locusts to land on his Immortals, but this is always going to be a pretty decent trade. These are free units for a lot of expensive units on the side of Protoss.
Yeah, already an Archon being picked off, and Stephano is just gonna go for the kill move here as he targets the shield battery very quickly. The rest of the army of Drogo is here, however, a lot of technical units, so Stephano might have to retreat and wait for the next wave of Locust. Beautiful move by Drogo, on the other hand, to have the presence of mind even to have those zealots across the map, but maybe overextending back at home, Roddy.
There are Queens now joining in the mix as well. I gotta say, Stephano probably needs a few more normal units here, right? Because there's a lot of Swarmos that don't add much. Corrosive Bile does not connect with the Immortal. Well done there. I mean, Drogo actually getting a couple of great trades. He generally got the best out of that entire situation.
Absolutely, and he also forces the Locust to spawn there a little bit far away from him, so they're not going to be as effective, though Stephano still finding the value in that Morphin Archon. Drogo has kind of done a good job of stabilizing here, because that's a wave gone for Stephano.
Yep, and that was the scariest one, right? Because that's where Stephano had like a 60-70 supply army advantage. Now all of a sudden that is becoming a bit closer. Drogo even feeling confident enough to send the War Prison to the other side of the map. Man, if Drogo wins this game, that'd be spectacular, because I really felt that this one was pretty much all over.
Yeah, it was not looking good for him, and to be honest, it's difficult to blame Stephano as well for holding his ground with those few units, but oh, this is a strange recall perhaps, but he did force another Locust wave, so in retrospect, I guess it's kind of perfect, right? It's a lot of space for Drogo.
It is, but now he obviously gives up all the map control as well, and I don't know what happened to the Prism, but it seemed like it died somewhere, so I guess it flew into a Spore Crawler or into one of the last remaining Queens, and that means that from this point on, it's going to be a bit harder for Drogo to be aggressive. I mean, he's still so far down in army supply, but he knows it, and that's why he's so far out on the map, because he's like, I just want to make sure that those Locusts are not landing on top of my units anywhere near my probes, right? If you want to land Locusts, that's fine, but you're going to land them in the center of the map.
Yes, indeed. That is very important for Drogo. Stephano finding a nice cliff, but actually nice spotting zealots here from Drogo. Will attempt at being cleaned up by one of those Swarmos firing their Locusts. At the same time, an attempt at a run-by on the north gets deflected from Stephano as he moves to try to take Drogo's third.
This game is just wild. Look at the minimap. There are armies rotating all around each other. The Locusts have landed in the center. And one Archon goes down and a couple Zealots. That's about it. But on top of that, we have a massive Roach attack on the left side that's going to probably take out this base without any issues. Gets an Immortal for his efforts as well. And now Drogo knows that he also needs to deal some damage on the other side of the map.
Yeah, these four Zealots might have something to say about those Locusts, and Drogo is finding indeed some damage. Remember, there's not much of an army back here at home from Stephano, so he is having to pull back. If Drogo can actually kill this base, and is there a recall available? I don't think so.
I don't think so either, right? Because he just recalled in the center. Yeah. I know recall doesn't have a very long cooldown, but I highly doubt that Drogo can already recall. So Drogo will take out 2 bases for this move. But if he ends up no, the Locusts land on the low ground on a Zealot. That's a big mistake by Stephano.
It's just 14 seconds to the next recall with this force field. He can buy time, but I'm not sure that Drogo's paying attention to the timer on that. Those Immortals could definitely focus fire at least this lair and kill it, and that is exactly what Drogo's gonna do. Recall is now ineffective as the units would die anyway, but hey, look at that. Look at the map. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, Drogo just took out 3 out of 4 bases, so Stephano is now a 1-base Zerg, but obviously lost one of his important bases on his side as well. There's no armor. He just recalled something. What did he recall? Oh, a random Immortal in the center of the map. Okay, well, Drogo knows that the storm is coming, and if Drogo just holds here, I think he's going to win the game because he's got +3 finishing up as well. Stephano activates those Locusts very early, way too early if you ask me.
Yeah, way too early indeed. His main army was still good enough to fight a handful of Zealots and mostly Archons. Still, the Locusts are doing decent damage. Stephano going after the battery. He's going to have to focus fire each one of these Archons if he's going to stand a chance. But so far, so good. And Stephano seems to be breaking through. This is such a close game, Roddy.
Yep, it is very close. I know the army supply doesn't make it look close, but because of all the damage that Drogo did, this really became a very close fight. But in the end, it is enough for Stephano to tie off this series. Oh my goodness. In the end, it was good enough to secure victory and send us into Game 3. On the top right side of Oxide, looking at the main base of the French Zerg, it is Stephano.
Bottom left-hand side, the man playing a very beautiful game one. Can he repeat it for the closing match? It is PtitDrogo.
Yeah, I mean, actually, if Stephano would take his 4th base below his main, that's actually very far away, right? Like, I know it looks close on the minimap, but it takes a long time for queens that are in the main to secure... I guess you don't even have creep there. So, yeah, there is a chance that it is double Oracle into Void Ray. But Stephano could also just take maybe the base on the top left side. And I think that's a little bit harder to cancel for the Void. But we will see. Yeah, I'm really interested about it. I have to admit, I'm not a big believer in those builds. I don't think you can really pull that off over and over again, because it all comes down to queen positioning in the end. But hey, it worked great the first time. And this sport crawl isn't done yet. I don't know how, but Drogo once again gets a perfect start with his Oracle.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Stephano was hoping that Drogo would wait for that second Oracle. I'm not sure how much they have played in recent history, but 6 workers off of the first one is already amazing. Yeah. And the second one is just cutting reinforcements. Look.
You just don't see that very often anymore. The first Oracle getting this much damage, and the second Oracle picking up 3 kills as well. This is a fantastic start for Drogo. Everything he could wish for, and perhaps even more than that.
Yeah, and I love the way that he uses these adepts as well, because he never commits with them. He just uses them to take the 3rd safely later, and it is just so beautiful. It's so methodical. Like, this is Drogo in a nutshell, and everything has started going his way this game. Can Stephano do something to stop him? I don't know.
Yep, that Void Ray is doing the same thing as it was doing on Death Aura, and that is pick up the first Overlord that's on this side of the map, then maybe find a second Overlord that's on Stephano's side of the map, and then potentially delay that 4th base. But Stephano must have learned from that, though. Like, I wonder what's going to be the adjustment for Stephano.
Yes, indeed. The Oracle's trying to pick off as many drones as they can, just transferring over. The Void Ray will make its way towards a different area than the Oracle. So it seems like this is something that Drogo really likes. It's just kind of to split that queen attention. And he's actually gonna spot the 4th base of Stephano before it even goes up. Right, like the intention of a 4th base.
Mate, literally everything is going perfect for Drogo. One of his Oracles survived in the main base with 1 HP. Like, you can't really make this... Oh, no, the other one is taking a lot of damage, but that one will too live with 16 HP. The Void Ray flies to the other side of the map, and the only 2 active creep tumors Stephano had, they just leaped forward, so the Void Ray cancelled those immediately as well. And then the cherry on the cake was just getting the drone that was being sent towards the top left side. It doesn't get much better than this for Drogo.
It really doesn't. The one thing that I think Drogo could have done better is on the retreat with those Oracles. He should have realized what he ended up realizing now and bringing them back to deny the 4th, knowing that his Void Ray was already at the other 4th and that Stephano wanted to take a 4th because he saw the drone moving out. So that would have been cool. Yet still, he's denied the 4th a great deal, and he's made things very, very difficult for Stephano thus far, who is going back into those Hydras. If you're Stephano, you kind of know what Drogo's game plan is to a good degree, right? Like, it's kind of like a mirror of game one, but what do you do?
Yep, but, well, apparently what he does is skip the roaches and just make nothing but Hydras. And Hydras, actually, they work in very funny ways, because you don't really need something to tank for them if they are just standing there in a very big ball. And the only thing you really have to worry about is Storm, because then you kind of micro against that. I mean, the game has been perfect for Drogo. When I say perfect, I mean actually almost perfect. He just lost his first unit. But up to this point, he killed 19 units, only lost a single probe. That doesn't mean you can just step on creep and A-move and assume that you're going to win, because one mistake, and then obviously everything you worked for just, well, I want to say was for nothing.
Yeah, at the same time, no roaches and more Hydras. It's kind of food for those storms. And Drogo is transitioning into Storm very fast, as well as that 4th. I mean, his strategy is so optimized that it's all bare minimum all over the place, but it's barely enough, and he keeps on getting ahead. This is just kind of nifty, and Stephano has a few drones trailing another drone at the 3rd, so not even mining as optimally as he could be, as Matt was showing.
Yep. Actually didn't see that before. Oracle's gonna dive in one more time. One of them does finally go down, but that's 8 minutes into the game. 17 drones have gone down up to this point. It really almost feels that Stephano doesn't even really know where to look. Does pick up the Observer there, and that's nice. And Stephano actually has 2 Dropper Lords right now moving out. One with 4 Roaches, the other one with 4 Hydras. I gotta say, that's a pretty bizarre play, because you know Drogo is going to attack you Don't you need those units at home, Cat?
I really think you do. This is such a scary attack from Drogo. I like that Stephano is trying something, but it's like 5 minutes too late. It's been Drogo punching over and over and over, and Stephano just taking it. And now here comes the big punch, Brody. It worked out wonders in the first game. I can't think of how this would go worse or at least as good. Oh!
Okay, one Hydra dies inside of the Overlord, but at this point, Drogo still has that Prism on the right side, which he used to warp in a couple of Zealots that are now attacking the fort base, and then obviously the main fight. There is so much Storm available. This shouldn't go wrong for Drogo.
It really shouldn't. I think Stephano is gonna need to drone pull a little bit sooner rather than later. He is sitting at a very beautiful concave, but this is the worst possible place for Drogo to engage, but he just has so much, he doesn't even care.
Nope, Drogo can just spam storms, keep that army at bay, and at the same time let the Zealots do what Zealots do best, and that is just destroy bases without even really looking at them. Nothing but storms, and Drogo may lose this army eventually, but not before killing a lot of drones and taking out the fort base, and I think that's all that he really needs to do here.
Yeah, it looks pretty over. These Archons are gonna morph and, you know, kill whatever they can before they die. The supply can be a little bit deceiving as Drogo doesn't look as in command as he really is. But I mean, when we look at the map, this base is about to die. Drogo has way too much. He has done it and looking pretty much like a mirror